This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zero to Hero, the podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales of the Lost Stories, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by me, your host, Ty Tiger. Today we're diving back into Power Rangers Cyberforce Arsenal Archived. Now, this story is a dedication to Mark, the Red Chorus Ranger, and Willie, aka Cosplay Dude 637. Both of them are my best friends. Willie is my parabatai, and the three of us make the Three Ranger Bros. And this entire story is a dedication to the Three Ranger Bros themselves. We have Power Rangers Cyberforce, a story made by Cosplay Dude 637, which you can hear the original on the Power Rangers Universe 19 podcast. In this story, I've dedicated a lot to that storyline because it's my favourite story that Cosplay Dude's ever written. And not only that, but we also have Mark in the storyline being a ranger that he personally picked out the colour for and the powers for. And it's a dedication to Mark as well, having Mark in here. Now, by the end of this chapter, we'll have some new things to go along with the team and abilities. So this story takes place way into the future, where an alien race sits in our atmosphere and they're jumping through time, entering different time frames of our history and stealing valuable items to sell them on the universal black market. And it's up to my job, because it is Ty in this storyline, and it's up to me to make sure, well, not me, but the character based off me, it's up to Ty to make sure he goes around and stops them whilst collecting all the valuable data keys to download into his morpher to unlock all the weapons from previous Cyberforce Rangers. So with that being said, let's dive into the story with Power Rangers Cyberforce Arsenal Archive. Chapter 2. A prison, a rainbow, and a key. I walked into Sam's laboratory with Mark walking behind me. "Hey boys, come over here. I got something to show you." Sam called us over. We walked up and saw a monitor all set up, leads trailing off, adding to the mess already made in the laboratory. On the screens was 15 indicators, each one blinking rapidly. "Each one of those is a weapon key, and your job is to get them," he said with a grin. "Yeah, I do know my own job, you know," I snapped. We got a problem," Mark sighed as he leaned in towards the screen. "What?" I asked him. Mark walked up to me and pointed at the bit that he was looking at, and it was one of the blinking dots. "That's the prison. We have to go there now and check on it. A weapon key there could be massive issues," Mark told us. I rolled my eyes. Mark's detective, goody-two-shoes attitude had started to get annoying, but I needed his help. "Fine, we'll go there first," I muttered. We then left the laboratory and headed for the prison. We travelled in Mark's hovercar. He parked up and we walked up to the entrance. Luckily, Mark's badge got us in without any hassle. We waited for the security guard to come let us in, but his morpher started beeping. "Hang on," Mark said as he answered the morpher. "Detective Bailey, we have seen you're close to the prison. We'd like you to go in and investigate. We've lost contact with the warden," the commanding officer on the other end of the line barked. "I understand," Mark said. Then Mark turned to me and raised an eyebrow. Then I clicked on. The guard had not opened the door yet. Mark then held up his detective badge to the scanner. It scanned his badge and the door opened automatically. "You could have done it before, because that comes in handy," I muttered under my breath. Me and Mark ran into the prison, and loud commotion suddenly became heard. Mark jumped over the barricade, and I shrugged my shoulders and followed him. We ran into the corridors to see the prisoners fighting the guards. Some of them human, some of them monsters, whether that be aliens, demons. I think I saw a machine or two in there. Mark pushed me down the turning, and we ran away from the fight. I looked at Mark confused, but he was focused. Headstrong. We entered the cell block A, and all the cells were open, or the prisoners were loose and fighting each other, or the prison guards. Some of them managed to retrieve some weapons. "We have to do something," Mark barked. "I am not your police officer," I moaned at him. "No, but you're a Power Ranger. We need help those guards. Then we can find the key," Mark demanded. I rolled my eyes at him once more. "Fine." Then Mark took a step forward. He pulled his sleeve down, revealing his chronomorpher. "Time Force," he called out, and crossed his wrist and pressed his chronomorpher. Then in a flash of light, Mark was morphed into the crimson-red Time Force Ranger. The Crimson Time Force Ranger looked at me, then nodded, and then he ran into the commotion. I watched him as he flipped over a guard who was tussling with a monster over a riot shield. He landed behind the monster and kicked it off the shield, then turned to a demon who hurled a ripped cell cage door off the wall. The Crimson Red Ranger caught it and tossed it to one side. Then he summoned his Chrono Sabers and ran at the demon as I took a deep breath. My turn, I guess. Scan DNA, I called out as I waved my hand over my cybermorpher and I started to glow the colours of a tiger's eye crystal. Cybercharge, I called out as I slammed my hand down on my morpher and I morphed into the tiger's eye Cyberforce Ranger. In my ranger form, I ran into the fray. I jumped up onto the second floor and grabbed a human prisoner, punched him in the face a few times and threw him off the ledge. Then a monster aimed an energy rifle at me. I hit my weapons icon and selected my weapon. Download! Cyber triggers! I called out, and 2 blasters appeared in my hands. I aimed them and fired, and the monster jumped into a cell to dodge my attack. He then leaped out of the cell and fired at me. I took several hits, sparks flying off my suit. I then rolled forward as the guy leaned out again. I managed to smack him in the head with the butt end of my blaster in my hand. Then I pushed his head back forward, ramming it into the cell door, knocking it out. I looked up and someone else had clocked me. Then it ran at me. It was an old photo booth monster. He threw photos at me. I backflipped. The photos flew past me. They exploded, causing the second level above us to rumble. Oh, that looks like a great idea, the photo booth monster growled at me. Then he threw several photos at the ceiling, which was obviously the flooring of the 3rd level. I tried to aim and shoot the monster, but I missed the shot. Then the monster triggered the explosive photos, and the 3rd floor collapsed on us, making the 2nd floor collapse as well. I felt the weight crush me as I hit the floor. I managed to pull myself mostly free, but then the Crimson Ranger grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the rubble. I pulled myself to my feet and dusted myself off. We need backup. I coughed. Yes, but SPD won't be here straight away, the Crimson Ranger replied. Then I had an idea. Wait, there's an evidence locker here, right? I asked him. Yeah, what's your point? He asked me back. Well, I know a prisoner here who also has a morpher. He's a ranger, or was a ranger. You get his morpher from the evidence locker, he can help us out. Was alot for the key, I told the Crimson Ranger. I cannot believe you'd bring him up now, he snapped. Hey, I can find him, okay? You have access to the evidence locker. Just go get his morpher. I'll meet you after, I told him. You do realise I don't take orders from you, he barked at me. If you want to survive this and save the people, I suggest you shut up. I snapped back, then I bolted off. The guy I was looking for shouldn't have escaped because of his new religion that he took soon after he was put in prison. I ran out of cell block A and ran into the dining room area. There, he sat at the table praying, and he was the exact man I was looking for. Yo, Willie, I called out. As I jumped off the balcony I was on and into the room, I walked up to him. Willie stopped praying and turned to me. I'm sorry, do I know you? Willie asked me. I demorphed and looked at him with a slight smile. My God, Tom, my boy, you're a ranger. Willie grinned. Well, so are you. I actually need help, I told him. Iris would not be happy if I delved into ranger antics, Willie said sadly. Oh, damn it. But your new god would like if you saved a bunch of people, I said convincingly. Then the Crimson Ranger came charging in and he handed a morpher to Willie. Then he turned to me. I located the warden. I'm going to secure him. Some of the prisoners have been seen at the court yard by the basketball court, trying to break open something that apparently fell from the sky. You might want to check it out, the Crimson Ranger told me. Then he ran off again. I looked at Willie, who gripped his morpher tightly. Fine, I'll help you, but only this once, Willie muttered, gripping his morpher, and he walked off and headed into the hectic cell blocks. I then headed for the courtyard and found my way outside, and I found 2 guys and a monster hammering a small grey metallic orb. I walked over to them. Yeah? What do we have here then? I mocked. The trio turned to me, one ran at me and swung a pipe at me. I jumped back and dodged the attack. I then kicked the pipe out of his hand and punched him in the face, knocking him out. Then suddenly several green energy blasts hit the monster, the human, and they dropped to the floor unconscious. I looked up and clocked a husk as he landed on the ground. He clocked me and aimed the blaster. He looked like an armadillo with dark green armoured shells and a few spiked piercings, and his cannon was very, very big. Stay away, human. I will kill you too, he growled. I smirked at him and I quickly morphed. Then I ran at the husk. He jumped back and blasted several energy blasts, which hit me dead on. I was thrown off my feet. I landed hard on the ground. I stood up and hit the weapon icon on my morpher and selected my cyber triggers once more. I started firing back. The courtyard became a battlefield of to and froing, back and forth of laser blasts. Suddenly Mark and Willie came running out of the prison. They started securing the monsters, turned on the morphing grid disconnectors, Mark told me as they hid behind a tipped-over table. I need you two to give me some cover so I can get the metallic ball thingy, I barked. Huh. Now we're outside, I can morph. So I gotcha, Willie nodded. Then I dived to one side. The husk haltering his fire, Mark and Willie both stood in front of the husk. Who are you two? The husk asked. Your end, Mark growled, then he crossed his wrist and pressed his chronomorpher. Time Force, Mark called out, and in a flash of crimson light, he was morphed into the crimson red Time Force Ranger. Then Willie flipped open his mystic morpher and pressed the side button to extend the 1 section of the phone. He then pressed the numbers. 1, 2, 3. The phone called out the spell words, Gulwit, Misto, Ranger. Then he crossed the morpher over his wrist before holding the morpher up in the air. Magical source, Mystic Force, Willie called out. The Ranger insignia appeared and his Titan form wrapped around him. It was an ancient form. It was the angelic woman with a circle headpiece and blue wings. Then Willie jumped up into the insignia and he morphed into the Mystic Force Isis Ranger. It was a rainbow-coloured ranger. The colours all shimmered and rippled around the suit. Then the Isis Ranger ran at the husk and started punching the husk as the Crimson Ranger started slashing it with his chrono sabers. I ran around the courtyard and managed to get to the metallic orb, and suddenly my morpher scanned it. Then the orb opened and the key floated out of it. I grabbed it with a cheer and then ran to join the other two Rangers as it seemed the husk had got the upper hand. I jumped in and stood tall. You have the key? The husk growled. Yeah, damn straight I do, I muttered. Then I plugged the key into the side of the morpher. Weapon key activated. Added Cyberforce weapon to weapon catalogue, my morpher said. Then the key glitched and disappeared. I pressed the weapon icon and saw a new weapon had been added to my catalogue. There was a weapon icon for a cyber blade. I pressed the new weapon icon. Download Cyber Blade, I called out, and the cyber blade appeared in my hands. Oh yeah, this is dope, I cheered as I chuckled, and the blade between my hands was light, as it was almost weightless. I will destroy you, the husk barked. I looked up at the husk, and I'd almost forgotten he was there. I ran at the husk and slashed its blaster. It sparked as he dropped it. Then I slashed him a few more times, jumped up and kicked it back before running up its body, kicking off. Then I swung the blade down and slashed the monster. He stumbled backwards and fell and then exploded. I stood there victorious. All three of us Rangers demorphed. Well done on finding it, Mark told me. You're gonna have to fill me on this, you know that, don't you? Willie told me. You mean you want to stick around? I asked with a grin. Yeah, sure, if you want to. Willie asked me back. Excuse me, you're a prisoner? Mark barked at him. Sure you can help me with that though, right? Willie grinned. Mark just threw him a dirty look. What about your religion? I asked him with a grin. I will speak of Isis, and I'm sure she can agree that this is for greater good. Those husk things are dangerous, Willie stated. Nice job, Sam's voice said in my earpiece. Yeah, thanks, buddy, I replied. Then I sighed as the SPD Ranger Squad came in to the prison courtyard to sort out the outbreak. Mark spoke to the SPD Rangers as I filled Willie in on being a ranger and my quest to collect all the 15 weapon keys to use the weapons to defeat the Husk Empire. And there we have it. A quick-paced, action-packed chapter for you guys. This chapter, again, is dedicated to 3 Ranger Bros, and Willie joins us on the team. So there is going to be, obviously, several more chapters. I'm also thinking of bringing in the perspective of the other Rangers. You get to see things from Mark and Willie's perspective, which I thought would be kind of cool. I also have some other characters introduced, etc, etc. That being said, thank you guys for watching this video. And make sure that you check out the 3 Ranger Bros themselves. We have Cosplay2637 with his podcasts, of course, Pirate Universe 19, which is where you'll find the original Cyberforce storyline. Storytime with Cosplay Dude 637. Sailor Moon E, and the Nostalgia Time YouTube channel. Now, hear me out. On 2 of them, not only will you find all of Willie's storylines, but you also find some of my stories, and that's going to be coming 3 out of the 4 soon enough. Then you have Mark the Comics Ranger with his podcast, Nice for Comics. He adapts comic books into audio dramas. You don't have to read the comic book, you can just hear the audio drama instead. Also, not only that, but he uploads his own stories, and he associates a lot of art my stories as well. That being said, make sure you subscribe to Tiger Tales, another channel, the original Tiger Tales, which is a place where you'll find stories and fanfictions, more of them, but in a third person perspective. And subscribe to this channel so you don't miss another dope story. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you guys really soon.